An unexpected night. How a poor girl's kindness revealed a millionaire cowboy's incredible truth. The lights of the rodeo flickered like distant stars, but standing in the concession booth, Emily could barely see beyond her exhaustion. Every shift chipped away at her bones, a dull ache from running back and forth, serving steaming nachos and sodas to smiling families. As she wiped the sweat from her brow, the weight of unpaid bills loomed heavier than the Texas sky above. She had always wanted to be more than just a waitress and convenience store clerk, but now, as the crowd cheered, her dreams felt like a distant memory. "How did I end up here?" she thought, her heart racing with a tumult of emotions. Frowning at the last meal ticket she had received, she felt a familiar pang of desperation. Her daughter Lily deserved to experience life beyond their cramped apartment, not just as a backdrop to her struggles. Still, Emily was caught in this cycle, a self-made prison of tired determination and guilt. With no family to lean on, every moment felt like a choice between survival and giving her daughter everything she desired. The shame of her financial burdens tightened around her like a noose. A sudden jolt interrupted her thoughts as she collided with a tall figure. She glanced up to see a rugged cowboy, his dark hat casting shadows over brooding eyes. "Sorry about that," she muttered, stepping back. Yet instead of retreating, she felt the urge to connect. She had about 5 seconds to make a choice, risk slipping her last meal ticket into his calloused hands. "Here," she said, half hesitating, "I know how much these places charge." His startled gaze held hers, and for a heartbeat her soul dared to breathe. He accepted it, thanks dancing in those stormy eyes. And they shared a moment of unexpected laughter when a soda cup slipped from her fingers, splashing across the sticky floor. Their laughter mingled with the surrounding chaos, creating an oddly cozy bubble amidst her burdens. Yet doubt gnawed at her insides. What did she really know about this man? Was he merely a passing spark, or a reminder of her precarious grip on hope? As she stole glances at him, his stoicism tugged on her obligation to protect Lily from anything resembling disappointment. What if he was like everyone else, fond of the thrill but oblivious to the weight of responsibilities? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. But as the rodeo lights twinkled brighter, an aching warmth nestled in her chest. Maybe she could let her guard down, even if only for tonight. Yet the swirling shadows of her past crept back. The faces of people who had let her down flashed through her mind. The untrustworthy friends, the judgmental strangers, a world that seemed to assume she and Lily were forever chained to their station in life. The air thickened with uncertainty when a nearby conversation pierced through her thoughts. "He's just a cowboy." "Yeah, but did you hear about his family wealth?" Suddenly, the light dimmed around her, betrayal creeping in as she pieced together his story. Had she unwittingly connected with someone shielded by privilege? The taste of hope turned bitter in her mouth. Guilt washed over her. Who was she to assume their bond could be genuine? Just then, chaos broke like glass shattering through the crowd. A sudden accident at the rodeo, chaos igniting sharp gasps and shouts. As panic surged, Emily's immediate fear was for Lily, while Jake instinctively surged into action, moving to help with an urgency that shocked her into stillness.
As the sirens echoed, Emily's heart raced with confusion, pushing aside her personal anguish and focusing on the precious life she was protecting, unaware that both she and Jake would have to confront truths that felt like tidal waves in their fragile lives. Would they be able to see past their facades and face the vulnerability they both hid behind? The night unfurled, filled with tension, each second thick with unanswered questions hanging in the air. Can they navigate the chaos and truly connect? As chaos erupted around her, Emily's instincts honed in on the only thing that mattered: Lily. The noise of the crowd dimmed, becoming nothing more than a muffled backdrop as she scanned the area for her daughter. Panic threatened to envelop her, but it was the flicker of Jake's figure that caught her eye. He darted toward the commotion, pulling his cowboy hat low and fluidly maneuvering through the sea of startled spectators. There was a fire in him, a willingness to confront the unexpected, something Emily herself had long abandoned. Taking a deep breath, she fought to quiet the storm inside her. Fear twisted tightly in her stomach, but she couldn't let it overtake her. Despite the uncertainty, she felt a strange sense of admiration toward Jake. He engaged with the chaos, not just on impulse, but with purpose, an instinct that was foreign to her. Could she dare to emulate just a fraction of that courage? She recalled how he'd accepted her meal ticket. What if that small act had opened a door to something far larger than both of them? Amidst her racing thoughts, she spotted Lily, standing at the fringe of the crowd, eyes wide with a mix of excitement and horror as she clutched her stuffed cow. Emily rushed toward her, adrenaline propelling her past the panic-stricken faces. Emotion surged through her, relief and dread waged war.
In her heart, the little girl was safe, yet the world swirling around them felt precarious. "Mommy!" Lily cried, rushing into her embrace. Emily held her tight, grounding herself in the warmth and softness of her child. This was her anchor, the reason she fought against the tide of despair, the very essence of her dreams. As she shielded Lily from the chaotic scene unfolding ahead, Emily noticed other parents sending their children away, some taking them towards the safer edges of the arena. The steely resolve in her heart began to form into an actionable plan. Amid the chaos, she could weave through the tides of uncertainty to weave a path for her and Lily. With a glance back at Jake, who was still engaged in offering assistance, a flicker of determination ignited in her. She wished she could escape the layers of doubt that clouded her choices. What if Jake truly was different? What if he could offer a perspective she hadn't allowed herself to consider? "Mommy, can we go home?" Lily's small voice pierced her reverie. "Just a moment, sweetie," Emily replied, her tone softening as the chaos resumed around them. As the sound of sirens wailed closer, she felt the pressure of her decision swell within her, a decision that would define not only the night, but also the future she envisioned for both of them. "Let's find a quieter place to sit, okay?" she directed, moving towards an area behind the concession booth, far from the noise and hysteria unfolding. As they settled down, Lily nestled against her and whispered, "Are you okay?" Emily forced a smile, pondering as the adrenaline subsided. Here, in the eye of the storm, she could reflect. There were moments in life that pushed you forward, but also moments that compelled you to assess the direction you were heading. With Jake's presence lingering in her thoughts, she recognized a burgeoning desire within to explore, to embrace uncertainty and vulnerability with courage rather than fear. As she looked at Lily's trusting face, Emily knew she had to make a choice. Would she cling to the familiar pain or risk reaching out again, testing the waters with the unexpected connection she once feared? Just then, she spotted Jake walking toward them, his brows furrowed in concern. But he wasn't just another stranger now. He was someone who had taken action, who pushed through chaos for a purpose far beyond himself. Would she let him in, or would she allow her past to define the future? As he approached, she felt a rush of conflicting emotions battle within her. The air seemed charged, heavy with the weight of potential change.
Would this pivotal moment lead them to vulnerability, or would fear win once more? His voice broke through her thoughts. "Is she okay?" Caught between the desire to protect Lily and the instinctual pull towards Jake, Emily took a deep breath. In that moment, she had to decide. Would she let this stranger into their fragile world?
Would she shut the door before it had a chance to open? Emily's heart raced, each beat echoing the weight of her decision. She found herself staring into Jake's earnest eyes, grappling with the unfamiliar urge to connect. This moment was charged, electric, not just with the chaos outside, but with her own internal storm. She could either retreat into her carefully constructed shell or seize the opportunity to allow this man, this stranger, a glimpse into her life. "A little shaken, but okay," she finally replied, shifting slightly so Lily could see Jake too. The child's natural curiosity seemed to take over, her big eyes absorbing the stranger who had swooped in to help. Emily watched as Lily's tension began to dissipate, and she contemplated the value of that man's presence. "You both should have a safe place to sit," Jake said, glancing around with determination. "I can help." The instinctual response was to refuse, to shield herself and Lily from what could very well lead to disappointment. A slight of trust that had often turned back on her like a beast from the darkness. Yet something within whispered for her to abandon hesitation and choose differently this time. The chaos in front of her would always exist, but could the decision she made now pave a new road for the future? "Okay," she said, her voice steady despite the trembling inside. "Lead the way." The three of them navigated through the thinning crowd, Jake effortlessly parting the sea of faces, always looking back to ensure they were behind him. Emily felt a strange sense of safety in his presence, a fierce protector amid the turmoil. With each step, she sensed the person he was, a catalyst for movement, both in action and emotion. What had felt utterly outside her control now held the potential of a different direction, a different choice. When they reached a quieter spot, shielded from the chaos, Emily lowered herself to a bench. Lily instinctively snuggled against her, drawing comfort from her mom's embrace. Emily's mind reeled. Could this moment trigger deeper change in herself, perhaps teach her to stand tall against her fears? "Just take a breath," Jake suggested gently, settling beside them and keeping a respectful distance. "You're safe here." Despite herself, she relaxed a bit. Being shielded from the frantic sounds beyond felt almost surreal. The air was softer here. She contemplated Jake's kind offer, his willingness to support them when they needed it most. Perhaps he had something to teach her, not just about resilience in chaos, but about stepping outside her comfort zone. Emily knew she had operated in survival mode for too long, driven strictly by the fear of sinking again. This encounter felt like a life raft. She merely needed to take hold of it. Would she let vulnerability teach her something invaluable? Or would she shy away, clinging instead to her fears like an old friend? She forced herself to meet Jake's gaze again. He looked sincere, weary, yet, "Thank you for helping us," she said finally, feeling an unexpected warmth growing within her. "Of course," he replied, confidence lacing his tone. "It's just what you do when you see someone in need." Whether he knew it or not, this man was pushing her to reconsider her worldview, urging her to challenge the tight grip she held on her own doubts. There was a yearning inside her to be more than a woman trapped in fear, to nurture a daughter. She could embrace love and friendship. She could invite the unexpected. With Lily nestled safely beside her, Emily felt the corners of her heart begin to unfold. Maybe there was a different path awaiting her, one that didn't have to sacrifice her own needs, but rather incorporated them into a collective pursuit of growth. But just as hope began to bloom, the loud wail of sirens rushed back, a grim reminder of the chaos they had escaped. Emily's brows knitted as anxiety flickered once more. Would they be truly safe, or was this an illusion, another mirage that would slip away from her grasp? "Hey, want to step away for a bit?" Jake asked, breaking through her thoughts again. "There's a coffee shop just down the street. It might be a good place to get your mind off things." His proposition hung in the air, a gentle invitation wrapped in uncertainty. Emily's heart raced anew, not just from the chaos outside, but from the prospect of forging a path beyond her past. Could she trust him enough to explore this new potential, even fleetingly? Would she summon the courage to take the next step into the unknown? The moments stretched between them, dense with possibility and the weight of past fears. As she considered what the act of stepping outside familiar boundaries could mean for her and for Lily, the decision lay heavy in her hands, ready to be made. "Let's go," she breathed, both trembling and exhilarated at the thought of what lay ahead. As they walked toward the coffee shop, Emily felt every step was a shaky dance on a tightrope. The bustling sounds behind them faded, replaced by the soft rustling of leaves and the rhythmic tapping of her shoes against the pavement. In Jake's company, her instinctual defenses began to lower, but doubt lurked at the edges of her mind. Would this moment amount to genuine connection or simply more disappointment? Lily skipped ahead, her laughter breaking through Emily's cautious thoughts. Watching her daughter, a powerful reminder of innocence, she felt a flicker of hope. Emily hadn't realized how starved she was for lightness until this moment. She smiled, the corners of her mouth lifting with reluctant warmth, encouraging Lily to explore, a sense of freedom she herself had long suppressed. Jake opened the door to the quaint coffee shop, the warm air spilling out and enveloping them. It was bright inside, with the comforting scent of roasted coffee beans enveloping her senses. Emily hesitated at the threshold, suddenly aware of the contrast between the chaos they had escaped and this cozy oasis. "Coffee or hot chocolate?" Jake asked, glancing over his shoulder, his eyes inviting her into the moment. "Hot chocolate," Emily managed, her voice steadier than she felt. A small decision, but a step toward reclaiming her agency, something she had let slip through her fingers for far too long. As they placed their orders, the intensity of their previous conversation faded, each sip of warmth drawing them into a shared moment of peace. The barriers that had clung to Emily for years began to peel away. The uncertainty of their encounter didn't feel as suffocating in this new setting. Maybe this interaction could mean more than just a diversion from fear. Perhaps it could present real possibilities. Sitting in a corner booth, the three of them settled into a comfortable silence. Emily sipped her drink, her eyes wandering to the window. Outside, the chaos continued, but here they were cocooned from the world, safe to explore their shared humanity. "So, what do you do, Jake?" Emily ventured, feeling the trust beginning to unfurl like a flower reaching for the sun. "I work with a non-profit organization," he replied, his demeanor shifting subtly as he spoke. "We help kids and families facing homelessness and offer them resources, food, health care, a safety net." As he described his work, Emily felt an unexpected admiration blossoming. His dedication ignited something within her, a desire to contribute, to someday bridge the gap between her past and a more promising future. Those lines of ambition began to blur in her mind as she pondered her own limitations. "What about you?" he asked, genuinely curious. His tone indicated that he considered her more than just a weary mother in need. "I used to be a teacher," Emily admitted, the words spilling from her with a mixture of pride and resentment. "Before life took its toll." "What toll?" She hesitated, grappling with the murky waters of her past, the losses, the disappointments she had learned to mask with nonchalance. But something about Jake, the way he listened, urged her to delve deeper. "Just, life didn't turn out as I hoped," she confessed, her heart pounding. "I thought I had it planned, teaching, a family, a good life, but everything unraveled." Instead of shying away, Jake leaned in, the warmth of his presence almost palpable. "You seem like you've got a strong spirit," he said, a quiet determination in his voice. "Maybe it's time to reclaim it."
His encouragement stirred something dormant within her. Could she reclaim not just her spirit, but also the teacher within? What would that look like? The mere thought opened a floodgate of possibilities she hadn't fully acknowledged before. Yet lurking in the recess of her mind was fear, the trepidation that such newfound dreams would again be eclipsed by overwhelming realities. "Maybe," she whispered, "but the road to get there
feels daunting." "Only if you let it be," he replied, a challenge lacing his voice. "You've already taken the first step tonight. Don't underestimate the impact of small choices." As the words hung in the air, a new determination seeped through Emily's doubts. Maybe her past wasn't a limitation, but a stepping stone, a crucible through which she could forge her future. But just as clarity began to settle, a sudden vibration from her phone shattered her concentration. Emily glanced at the screen, and her breath caught. A name she hadn't seen in years illuminated the display. An old friend with a past she had buried. An opportunity for real connection knocked once again, but would she have the courage to answer? Emily's heart raced as she stared at the name on her phone. It felt surreal, as if a ghost from her past had suddenly materialized, distorting her present in unsettling ways. Conflicting emotions, curiosity, apprehension, hope, swirled within her like a storm. "Everything okay?" Jake's voice pulled her back from the brink of past memories. He leaned slightly forward, concern etched on his face. "It's just—" Emily hesitated, her grip tightening around the phone. "Someone from my past just reached out to me." "Are you going to answer?" His question was simple, yet it triggered a cascade of thoughts. Memories of shared laughter and a friendship that had once felt like a lifeline danced through her mind. But so did the specter of abandonment and shame. "I don't know," she admitted, feeling the weight of her indecision. What did she really want from this old relationship? Would it drag her back into the darkness she had fought so hard to escape? "A part of you clearly wants to reach out," Jake prompted. "What's scaring you the most?" The question sunk deep. Her past was riddled with regret and mistakes. The thought of revisiting it sent shivers down her spine. It wasn't just about reconnecting, it was about facing years of choices that felt more like failures. "It's just complicated," Emily replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if it opens old wounds?" "Or what if it brings you clarity?" Jake countered gently. "Sometimes reconciling with the past can lead you toward the future you seek." She toyed with the idea, considering how much Jake's words resonated with her burgeoning desire for growth. His belief in her sparked something within Emily, urgency punctuated by the reminder that she held the power to choose her path. Before she could process her swirling thoughts, Emily's fingers moved instinctively. She tapped on the screen, heart pounding, and pressed accept. "Hey, it's been a long time," she said, trying to keep her voice steady, even as the memories flooded back. The good moments, the bad, all seemingly wrapped in the same package. "Emily, I wasn't sure you'd pick up," the voice on the other end responded after a brief pause, almost as if the caller was weighing the bridge between their past and present. "I've been busy." Each word felt heavy, laden with unspoken truths. The path had led her far from the girl this voice remembered. "Listen, I was thinking about you," her friend continued, "and everything that happened. I know we left things in a weird place, but I'm back and I'd really like to talk." 1,000 memories crossed her mind at once, yet deep down she sensed a flicker of possibility. Maybe this conversation could ignite the spark of connection she had been missing. "Okay, what do you want to talk about?" For the first time in years, Emily felt something shift within her, a combination of vulnerability and a newfound strength. As the conversation flowed, she found herself sharing pieces of her life, her daughter, her struggles, her dreams. To Emily's surprise, her friend listened intently, without judgment, creating space for her words to land softly, allowing her to finally articulate long-ignored desires. "I think you've grown stronger than you realize," her friend said reassuringly. "You're not that scared girl I once knew.
You've become someone remarkable." The compliment enveloped Emily like a warm embrace, somewhat uncomfortable yet wholly welcome. She felt a wave of untapped potential swell within. She wasn't merely reclaiming her past, she was redefining who she had become along the jagged journey. As the conversation began to wind down, Emily noticed Jake watching her, a silent witness to this transformative moment. A sense of gratitude washed over her. She hadn't expected to feel empowered by the past or buoyed by someone like Jake, whose presence seemed to anchor her amidst stormy seas. "Would you like to meet up tomorrow? I really think we can hash things out," her friend proposed. In that moment, Emily faced a crossroad. Saying yes could lead to healing, but also risk uncovering unhealed wounds. But perhaps this was necessary. Continuing to bury her past had only yielded isolation and despair. Maybe dealing with it now was part of her ascent. "Sure," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "Let's do it." As she hung up, a mix of anticipation and apprehension filled the air. She had taken a step toward confronting her past, and yet questions echoed in her mind. What stories would resurface? What truths would she unearth about herself? With renewed resolve, she looked at Jake, who was still absorbing the moment. Did he sense the shift within her? "I did it," she said, a tremor of excitement in her voice. "You're just getting started," he replied, a grin spreading across his face. But before Emily could bask in the moment, another ping reverberated from her phone. Another message from her friend lit up the screen. "And, by the way, I have something important to share that could change everything." Her heart thudded painfully. What could possibly be so game-changing? Would Emily be ready for the truth that awaited her? The night had only just begun, and with it came uncharted territory. Emily shifted uncomfortably on her couch, the earlier adrenaline from the conversation
fading into a dull throb of anticipation. The room felt too quiet, every creak of the floorboards an echo of her swirling thoughts. That message lingered in her mind like a shadow, heavy with unspoken implications. What truth could her friend possess that would warrant the declaration of it being life-altering? Jake, sensing the shift in her mood, stood and wandered toward the kitchen. The mundane sounds of a kettle boiling mingled with her racing thoughts. She mentally sorted through the fragments of her life that could be intertwined with her past. Hadn't she just begun to feel a sense of stability? The notion of peeling back layers of her past now sent a shiver down her spine. Focusing on her breathing, Emily grabbed her phone, forcing her mind away from the impending conversation. She navigated through her notes, pulling up the outline she had been refining for her project at work. The work had offered an avenue for her growth, a tangible way to transform her ideas into something impactful. The all-too-familiar ache of dread crept back, reminding her how easy it could be to fall behind. Assuring herself of her breathing, Emily grabbed her phone, forcing her mind away from the impending conversation. She navigated through her notes, pulling up the outline she had been refining for her project at work. The work had offered an avenue for her growth, a tangible way to transform her ideas into something impactful. The all-too-familiar ache of dread crept back, reminding her how easy it could be to fall behind. As she scrutinized her notes, a flicker of recognition dawned on her. She had reframed her struggle into power. Months ago, every challenge felt like a brick wall. Now she viewed them as stepping stones. Crystallizing her ideas into a proposal for a new multimedia campaign, each bullet point transformed doubt into purpose. The thought made her smile, a fleeting confidence bolstering her belief in her capabilities. But just when she was ready to dive deeper into her work, her phone buzzed once more, this time illuminating the screen with a new message from her friend. "Meeting somewhere public makes sense, right? Let's keep it easy." Easy? She whispered to herself, pushing aside thoughts of difficulty. Was confronting her past really that simple?
The next day arrived like a sweeping tide, and as Emily prepared to meet her friend, determination coursed through her. She dressed purposefully, choosing a crisp yet casual outfit, a subtle reminder that she had moved beyond her past self. Standing in front of the mirror, she examined the reflection staring back, a burgeoning woman brimming with potential, courage taking root in her heart. Arriving at the cafe, she felt a mixture of excitement and anxious energy. The aroma of roasted coffee beans swirled in the air, while chatter buzzed around her. Each table was filled with laughter and stories, a stark contrast to the silence of her own turmoil. Spotting her friend, she felt a rush of nostalgia and nerves intertwine. "Hey, you made it," her friend greeted warmly, yet a flicker of uncertainty passed across his face. "Yeah, I wouldn't miss this," she replied, her voice stabilizing with practiced ease. For a moment, they exchanged life updates, jobs, relationships, the mundaneness of existence, before the conversation shifted to the shadows of the past. Emily sensed the air thicken, charged with meaning, as her friend carefully broached the topic that had haunted
them both. "I've thought about the choices we made," he began, and Emily's heart pounded, the walls of her mind closing in. "There's something I need you to understand." This was the moment she had both longed for and dreaded. As he spoke, revealing layers of his own life that had remained hidden, she listened intently. Each word was a ring of truth, shaking the foundation of her past views. "And what about the choices you've made now?" he asked, his gaze steady, almost probing. "Who are you today, Emily? Are you still afraid?" The question struck deep. She had climbed mountains to distance herself from fear, yet the vestiges lingered. Would she emerge from this meeting transformed, or would the past pull her back into its depths? As the conversation unfolded, the walls of her apprehension began to crack. This crossroads held within it not just the prospect of healing old wounds, but the opportunity to redefine her narrative, to cast aside shame in favor of courage. Perhaps the truth her friend possessed wasn't just about him. Perhaps it lay in her own acceptance of the woman she had fought so hard to become. Just then, a revelation pierced through her thoughts. This wasn't merely about closure. It was about a new beginning. "Emily, I have something that could define everything for you, and it starts with your truth," he stated, the weight of his words anchoring her in place. An unrelenting question loomed. Could the truth be the catalyst she needed? The moment felt charged, and she could almost hear her heart echoing in her chest. With every ounce of resolve, Emily prepared to confront not just the revelations of another, but the depths of her own resilience. Would acknowledging her present allow her to rewrite her past, or would it unravel the very fabric of her identity? The conversation teetered on the edge of uncovering a profound truth, but one thing was clear: the moment of reckoning had arrived. The cafe hummed with the soft undertone of conversations, a comfortable chaos that enveloped Emily in its warmth. But within her, a storm brewed. The few words exchanged with her friend now felt monumental, echoing with the weight of uncharted territories. As her heart raced, she realized she was standing at the precipice, not just of an important conversation, but of her own evolution. "Emily," her friend prompted gently, breaking through her reverie, "you still there?" "Yes, I'm here," she replied, shaking off her fragmented thoughts. They were teetering on the edge of a personal truth, yet she grappled with how to articulate her own feelings. This wasn't just about him unveiling his life. It was about her own revelations, ones she had meticulously hidden. "I know what we went through wasn't easy," he continued, his tone sincere. "But I've come to realize that facing the past can free us. Sometimes it helps to know we're never alone in our struggles." His gaze held hers, seeking a response, but she hesitated. Could she lighten the burdens she had carried for so long? The realization hit.
Her narrative had been one of isolation, a fortress built from pain. But here, with each moment they shared, the possibility of connection flickered like a distant star. "I want that," she confessed, the words flowing easier than expected. "But it's terrifying." "Fear is natural, Emily. It means you're confronting something real," he encouraged. "Acknowledge it. Embrace it." As he spoke, the walls she had carefully erected trembled under the weight of that encouragement. She considered the journey that had brought her to this moment. Every push and pull in her professional life, every step toward independence. Each struggle was a pivot of growth. The fear she felt was a river that could either drown her or propel her forward. "What if I share my truth and it only changes things for the worse?" she wondered aloud, a shudder running through her. "What if it reveals a version of myself I'm not ready to face? Or perhaps it could liberate you, revealing strengths you didn't even know existed," he countered, his voice steady. "Growth often lies in the shadows. We only learn to walk in the light by acknowledging where we've stumbled." She considered this. The shadows had always felt like a part of her, something to hide from. Yet here he was, suggesting they could serve as stepping stones instead. What if sharing her truth illuminated aspects of herself she had suppressed? Tiny sparks of curiosity ignited within her. "I want to be brave," she declared tentatively, the conviction lingering in the air. "I'm ready to face whatever is lurking in those shadows." "Then let's do it together," he said, offering her an encouraging smile that felt like a hand reaching across a chasm. "Share what burdens you. Let's turn this into a cathartic experience." But a nagging thought crept in, whispering doubts that clawed at her confidence. While she recognized the importance of this moment, she was still unsteady on her feet. "Can I really make my past a part of my identity without it consuming me altogether?" In taking this leap, would she pull herself from the precipice, or would it plunge her deeper into the unknown? Her work, her newfound courage, all seemed to align with this pivotal reckoning, laying the groundwork for an unexpected transformation. Faced with the opportunity for honesty, Emily took a deep breath, preparing to unveil a story that could reshape not only her friend's perspective of her, but her own as well. "All right," she said, her voice growing firmer. "Let me start at the beginning, from when I didn't believe I could change." As she began to weave her story, internal cycles of fear and courage clashed and intertwined, each thread revealing something profound within her. The cafe atmosphere faded, leaving only the raw exchange of thoughts and feelings. She felt vulnerable yet powerful as she dismantled the barriers surrounding her past. But amid the catharsis, a
Shadow of doubt lurked, hinting that not everything would lead to an easy acceptance. What awaited her at the conclusion of her confession? Would acceptance blossom, or would the truth bring consequences she could scarcely anticipate? The murmur of the cafe once again faded into a dull hum, clashing against the charged silence between them, pushing Emily to confront the realities of her past and the uncertain future unfolding before her. Would this honesty turn into the foothold she needed to step into a brighter chapter of her life, or would it fracture her sense of self in ways she could hardly predict? As her story began to unfold, she sensed the stakes were higher than she ever imagined. The fabric of her identity lay intertwined with every word, each revelation a thread in the tapestry she was ready to weave. The real question now loomed larger than any moment prior. If she accepted her past, who would she become? Emily's voice trembled as she began to recount the moments that had defined her, layering them with emotions she had long buried beneath the surface.
Each word became a brushstroke, painting a picture of her journey from a timid girl afraid of the world to a woman on the brink of stepping into her own power. The cafe faded into the background. Her friend's empathetic gaze drew her in, prompting her to dig deeper. "I grew up in a home where love felt conditional," she started, glancing briefly at her friend. "My father was hard on me, believing that discipline would reshape me into someone strong. He thought toughness was all I needed to succeed." She paused, swallowing the bile of resentment that rushed up. This was the first step, acknowledging the pain that had shaped her essence. He nodded, the encouragement unspoken but present in the air. "But it wasn't strength I needed, it was acceptance," she continued. An understanding dawned upon her. "As I pushed through school, I found solace in books and art, running away into worlds where I could bend the rules and rewrite endings." As she shared snippets of her childhood, Emily felt the floodgates of vulnerability opening. The tranquility of the cafe melded into the emotional landscape she was crafting. "But when I stepped into adulthood, those escapes turned into chains. I boxed myself in, thinking that's where I belonged." Her voice dipped, a weight bearing down upon her. "The job at the gallery felt like an anchor, but I was drowning in the very thing I loved. All my art, the reviews, the praise, they were meaningless. I was surviving, not living," she confessed, the truth hitting her hard. As each layer peeled away, she felt a strange mix of exhilaration and dread. "What I'm trying to say," she drew in a shaky breath, "is that all my life I've yearned for validation. Yet, in seeking it, I just buried myself deeper. I thought it would be my beacon, but instead it became my prison."
Her friend leaned closer, a silent invitation beckoning her to articulate the unsaid. "I've always been terrified of disappointing people, of being seen as less than what they expect of me," Emily admitted, her heart racing. "I feel it every day at work, trying to project an image of confidence while I'm crumbling underneath." She clenched her hands, feeling anger rise within her. "But who am I saving? Who am I protecting?" The cafe, once a warm refuge, now felt stifling. Suddenly, clarity broke through. In confronting her past, she was unearthing something poignant within herself. "Maybe," she murmured, almost to herself, "maybe I don't need to carry burdens that aren't mine anymore. Maybe nobody expects perfection." As the realization washed over her, a sense of calm blended with her previously thrumming anxiety. Each confession she made transformed the pain into empowerment. She could feel the stubborn knot of fear loosening, making space for something new to grow. But just as she began to feel the lightness of release, a wave of uncertainty crashed back in. "What if I fail, though?" she questioned, absorbing the gravity of the moment. "What if I step away from this facade, this prison of expectations, and find nothing but emptiness? Who would I be without those walls?" Suddenly the cafe buzzed again in her periphery, the sounds of life and laughter echoing like a counterpoint to her internal dialogue. She looked into her friend's eyes and found resolve reflected there. Yet a stark truth coursed through her. The journey ahead could hold both liberation and risk. "Are you ready for this new chapter?" he asked softly, breaking through the haze of her thoughts. The stakes had sharpened, the weight of what lay ahead unfathomable. Emily drew a ragged breath, unsure if she was ready to bear the full weight of who she might become. But she understood now that her growth would be born of acceptance, not rejection. "I think I am," she answered, her voice steadier than she felt. With the dim lights of the cafe seeming to flicker vibrantly around her, she felt herself on the verge of a leap. But what if I'm wrong? What if growth turns into another form of hiding?
The resolution sparked something deeper within her, but so did the doubt, coiling tightly around her heart like a vine. As they both sat in contemplative silence, a new truth began to dawn upon her. Could she truly embrace the freedom that could come from vulnerability? The next moment could redefine everything about her, yet the shadows of uncertainty loomed larger than ever. And therein lay the crux of it all. Was she prepared to confront the ultimate fear, the fear of being wholly herself? The thought coursed through her veins, and as her heart quickened, she felt herself standing before an unseen chasm, beckoning her to leap. Emily's heart beat in her chest as she pushed her chair back with a motion that felt both hesitant and determined. She stood up, gathering her belongings with a fervor that belied the inner turmoil swirling within her. The cafe's chatter faded into a white noise, a backdrop to the symphony of her thoughts, a cacophony of fears, hopes, and long-buried dreams clamoring for a voice. Stepping into the cool evening air, she took a breath sharply, grounding herself. There was a delicate balance now between the revelation of her past and the daunting path toward her future. Each footstep felt monumental as she made her way home, a blend of resolve and trepidation threading through her consciousness. What if she couldn't change? What if the walls she planned to dismantle were thicker than she imagined? Each question was a weight tied to her ankles, dragging her toward uncertainty. How could she possibly navigate this transformation? Arriving at her small apartment, the utter stillness inside felt both comforting and isolating. She flicked on the lights and was instantly struck by the starkness of her surroundings. Bare walls, a solitary plant struggling for life on the windowsill, and a coffee table littered with remnants of dreams never pursued. A half-finished sketchbook, canvases covered in gesso, and journals filled with half-hearted musings. This was a physical manifestation of her internal state, cluttered with the debris of unfulfilled potential. Emily's gaze fell on the sketchbook, the pages remaining unturned, much like her own aspirations. She approached it slowly and opened to a page that contained the last sketch she attempted. A rough outline of a vibrant landscape, nothing but an idea, inked but forgotten. That was the moment she realized. It wasn't just fear holding her back from pursuing art. It was the intricate web of expectation, both real and imagined. Grabbing the sketchbook, she set it on her kitchen table, drumming her fingers against its cover. This simple action ignited a flicker of determination within her. She needed to reclaim her voice, not just in conversation, but through creation. Late into the night, she found herself engulfed in a haze of colors and shapes. Layer upon layer of paint enveloped the canvas in front of her, each stroke a declaration of newfound freedom. Hours melted away as she lost herself in the rhythm of creation. With every stroke, she fought the remnants of self-doubt that whispered, "You're wasting your time. It won't matter." "No," she insisted aloud, her voice firm and compelling. Each note reverberated within her, solidifying her resolve. "It matters to me." But as dawn crept into her window, illuminating the vibrant canvas that now stared back at her, a chill settled deep in the pit of her stomach. The art was beautiful, expressive, a raw representation of her journey. But how would it translate into her life outside these walls? Would she have the courage to share it, to expose herself to the scrutiny she'd always feared? The uncertainty clawed at her insides, forcing her to sit and confront the lingering question. What was she willing to risk for the sake of authenticity? Her thoughts spiraled at the prospect.
Of rejection, of showing this piece to her colleagues at the gallery, an arena where perfection had always seemed paramount. This was more than an artwork, it was a piece of her essence. While she yearned for acceptance, she also craved the possibility of vulnerability. There was an unsettling truth. Letting go of fear would involve stepping into an unknown, filled with potential for disappointment.
But perhaps it would also open doors to joy and self-acceptance she had never known. As she restlessly paced the room, a sudden thought struck her. What if she set a date for her own show? It could be a personal gift, an exploration of self, devoid of expectations from others. The idea danced teasingly around her, but before she could embrace it fully, a rush of self-doubt surged forth. What if she failed? What if the world met her art with silence? That question hung like a weighty fog around her, and Emily halted. Yet that question also ignited something within her, the willingness to confront the uncharted waters of personal authenticity. Pacing slowed, and she stood still, heart racing with both fear and a thrill of liberation. Tomorrow would be the day she began. She would carve an avenue for herself through preparation, even if it felt like stepping into the chasm of vulnerability once more. But what if, in that very moment, her doorbell rang, bringing with it an unexpected visitor, someone who could change everything? As Emily stood frozen in her living room, deep in contemplation, the doorbell chimed, jolting her from her thoughts. Her pulse quickened. She wasn't ready. Was it someone who would add to her worries, or would this unexpected visitor shift the course of her life once again? Taking a deep breath, she approached the door. With every step, uncertainty clawed at her. But the past few days had crystallized something within her. She was ready to confront whatever lay ahead, ready to embrace the possibility of connection. Pacing slowed, and she stood still, heart racing with both fear and a thrill of liberation. Tomorrow would be the day she began. She would carve an avenue for herself through preparation, even if it felt like stepping into the chasm of vulnerability once more. But what if, in that very moment, her doorbell rang, bringing with it an unexpected visitor, someone who could change everything? As Emily stood frozen in her living room, deep in contemplation, the doorbell chimed, jolting her from her thoughts. Her pulse quickened. She wasn't ready. Was it someone who would add to her worries, or would this unexpected visitor shift the course of her life once again? Taking a deep breath, she approached the door. With every step, uncertainty clawed at her. But the past few days had crystallized something within her. She was ready to confront whatever lay ahead, ready to embrace the possibility of connection. Swinging the door open, she was met by none other than Jake, standing there with a warm smile and an earnest gaze. "Hey, I figured I'd check in on you," he said, his voice laced with genuine concern and friendliness. "Wow, what a surprise," she replied, trying to mask the jumble of emotions swirling inside her. "I wasn't expecting anyone." "I thought you might appreciate some company. Plus, you mentioned wanting a sounding board for your ideas." His words enveloped her with an invitation to vulnerability she hadn't realized she craved. Inviting him in felt both exhilarating and daunting. He stepped inside, his presence grounding yet invigorating. She gestured to the couch, offering him a seat while she braced herself for their conversation. Would he see the crumpled emotions she was still untangling and the vulnerability she was daring to embrace? "So, how are you holding up?" Jake asked, settling in beside her, his tone knitting warmth into the space. Emily hesitated. The urge to spill everything surged within her, but the fear of
judgment lurked just behind her words. Instead, she took a breath and opted for honesty. "I've been reflecting on a lot lately. My past, my self-doubt, it feels overwhelming." "I get that," he nodded, his empathy illuminating the conversation space. "Change can be scary, but you're doing the hard work. You're allowing yourself to feel, to explore your passions." The encouragement was a tether pulling her closer to her own aspirations.
This was the man who had charged in unthinkingly amid chaos at the rodeo, and now he sat here, willing to engage with her story. She felt compelled to share more. "Last night I started painting," she explained, her words pouring forth, tinged with excitement and hesitation. "It felt liberating to express myself, to break away from fear and let the colors be part of my journey." Jake's eyes sparkled with genuine interest. "That's fantastic. Art is such a powerful means of expression. What are you hoping to convey?" "I guess the transition from fear to acceptance," she said, summoning the courage to lay bare her aspirations. "I want to hold an art show, a personal one, but I'm scared. What if it's not good enough?" "Who defines good enough for your own journey?" Jake asked pointedly. "This is your story, and your art is a reflection of you, raw and unfiltered. The world needs authenticity now more than ever." His words cascaded through her like a refreshing tide. This was the validation she hadn't dared to seek for years. It was as though he had lifted a veil, obscuring her understanding of her own art. She felt a burgeoning sense of courage intertwining with hope, coiling tightly around her heart. "But what if no one comes?" she posed, the shadows of doubt creeping back in. "What if I expose myself only to be met with silence?" "Then it's still a victory, a step toward reclaiming the narrative you've long let others write for you," he replied, unwavering in his conviction. "Don't let fear of a potential outcome hold you back from expressing who you truly are." In that instant, Emily saw a glimmer of opportunity. Instead of fearing the outcome, she could embrace the process. Something about Jake's steadfast belief in her ignited a fierce resolve within her. "You're right," she breathed, her heart swelling with determination. "I think I'll go for it. I'll plan it soon, maybe even next month." "I'd love to help," Jake offered, leaning closer, his enthusiasm contagious. "Let's brainstorm together, figure out a theme. You shouldn't have to do this alone." The offer sparked something profound. For the first time in a long while, she felt the chains of isolation loosen. She realized that she didn't have to shoulder her dreams alone. This could be the moment everything shifted, an opportunity to inhale inspiration and exhale the fears she'd carried for too long. "Thank you," she said softly, genuinely grateful. "It means a lot to have you here." As the two delved into conversation about her vision.
For the show, crafting a cohesive theme, discussing potential marketing strategies, and navigating the details, Emily felt an exhilarating rush of purpose. She grabbed her sketchbook and began outlining ideas, enthusiasm bubbling forth. There was a weightlessness to their exchange, as if each shared thought added another color to the canvas of her aspirations. Slowly but surely, she began to envision the coherence of her past blending beautifully into the present. The clock ticked on, and with every hour spent planning together, Emily's anxiety shifted into tangible excitement. She caught herself grinning as playful ideas peppered their conversation, like brushstrokes on her canvas of resilience. "It's starting to take shape," she declared, her voice laced with triumph. "I don't know if this is the magical moment of transformation, but it feels monumental." Jake smiled, pride evident in his gaze. "Because it is," he encouraged, leaning back with a satisfied nod. "You're stepping into your power, and that's something to celebrate." She reveled in the connection they had established, both as future collaborators and individuals navigating the complexities of life. They weren't simply two people meeting by chance. They were becoming architects of their own narratives. That grueling fear of inadequacy began to fade. Once overshadowed by doubt, she now felt grounded, determined to express the intricacies of herself through art. And as possibilities began to unfurl, Emily found herself embracing the depth of her artistic vision, fueled by support, trust, and an assertive sense of self-worth.
As time passed and conversation flowed freely, Emily couldn't help but feel gratitude for even the hardest moments, the chaos, the pain, and the uncertainty. But now it wasn't simply about navigating through those shadows. It was about thriving despite them, weaving stories of resilience and aspiration into a bright future. Before they knew it, the room faded into the background, time sculpted by their ambitions. In allowing herself to be open with Jake, she felt a burdensome sense of shame disintegrating as laughter echoed through the space. Together, they stepped forward with purpose, ready to embark on a shared journey. As the night deepened, the doorways to their future began to cast inviting light, illuminating challenges waiting to be throve upon. Together, they would conquer not just their fears, but inspire the beginning of something extraordinary. Each of them stepping confidently into an adventure punctuated by creative fulfillment and genuine connection. The only thing left to decide: when would they unveil their first masterpiece? The art show, the culmination of shared dreams and artistic courage. And in that moment, Emily, not just the anxious waitress dreaming among the crowded stands of a rodeo, recognized she had leaped into the unknown, expansive and vivid, ready to embrace every instantiation of her own power. You need to subscribe now to never miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because your support matters. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. I'm eager to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who
need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.